In this video, we're going to explore some of the most important AWS network security services and see how they work together to protect your applications. These services show up in a lot of real-world architectures and strongly affect how you design secure systems on AWS. Before we look at each of those services, let's have a quick hint on remembering some of the basic services we covered in our previous videos, NACL and security groups. If you remember, we mentioned that NACLs or network ACLs are basic traffic filters at the subnet level. They're stateless, which means they don't remember past traffic, and every packet is checked against the rule whether it's going out or coming back in. And security groups, on the other hand, work at the instance or resource level, and they are stateful. Once a connection is allowed in, the return traffic is automatically allowed out, even if you don't write an outbound rule for it. When you use NACLs and security groups together, you can build layered access control around your resources in a VPC. But they still only look at basic things like IP addresses and ports. They don't really understand what the traffic is actually doing under the hood. And that's where the next set of AWS network security services comes in. Starting with AWS Network Firewall. You can think of AWS Network Firewall as a more advanced managed firewall service for your VPCs. Instead of only matching an IP and port, you can look deeper into the traffic and apply more complex rules. For example, you can block certain domains, detect suspicious patterns, or enforce stricter controls between different subnets or VPCs. So that covers deeper inspection inside your VPCs. Now, not every workload you run will sit directly on an EC2 instance inside your VPC. You might have an API gateway endpoint in front of a Lambda function or an application load balancer that routes traffic to a group of instances or containers. For those types of workloads and services, AWS Network Firewall can't do the job, and that's where AWS WAF comes in. AWS WAF stands for Web Application Firewall, and it sits in front of your web applications and inspects HTTP and HTTPS requests. It's designed to protect your apps from common web exploits such as SQL injection or cross-site scripting by letting you define rules that match suspicious patterns in incoming requests. You can use AWS managed rule sets if you don't want to build everything from scratch, and you can customize your own rules when you have specific needs. So, Network Firewall focuses on deeper network level inspection, and WAF focuses on protecting your web layer. But there's another type of threat that's more about volume than content, and that's distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks. In a DDoS attack, the attacker floods your endpoint with a huge number of requests or a massive amount of traffic, often from many different IP addresses around the world. To protect against this, AWS offers AWS Shield. AWS Shield is focused on detecting and mitigating DDoS attacks against your AWS applications. It comes in two levels: AWS Shield Standard, which is free and enabled by default, and AWS Shield Advanced, which is enterprise level and a paid service. AWS Shield Standard protects you against common large-scale network and transport layer DDoS attacks like SYN floods or UDP reflection, and it is already included for services such as CloudFront, Route 53, and ALB. And Shield Advanced level adds stronger protection for large or critical applications, including advanced DDoS detection and mitigation, 24/7 access to AWS DDoS Response Team or DRT team, cost protection against scaling charges caused by DDoS attacks, and more detailed visibility and attack diagnostics. Now you might ask, I have Network Firewall, I have WAF, and I have Shield. How do I manage policies across all of these services and keep everything consistent, especially if I have multiple accounts in an AWS organization? And this is where AWS Firewall Manager comes in. AWS Firewall Manager is a central management tool for your network security policies across your AWS organization. You can define security policies once, for example, a standard WAF rule set or a required network firewall configuration, and then automatically apply those policies across multiple accounts and resources. This helps larger environments stay consistent and reduces the chance that one account forget to enable a critical protection. To make all of this easier to remember, let's quickly zoom out and summarize the whole big picture. You can use Network Firewall when you need deeper, more advanced inspection and control traffic inside and between your VPCs, especially in multi-VPCs or more complex network designs. You can use WAF to protect your web applications at the HTTP and HTTPS layer and block common web exploits such as SQL injection and cross-site scripting. And you can use AWS Shield to protect against DDoS attacks with Shield Standard automatically included and Shield Advanced available for stronger protection and added support for mission-critical applications. And finally, use Firewall Manager when you want a single place to manage and enforce these network security policies across multiple AWS accounts and resources in your AWS organizations. With those roles in mind, you should have a clear picture of how these services fit together in a secure AWS architecture. Alright, that's a wrap for this video, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video.